Hey guys, well, I decided to do a second video. I wanted to explain and show some of the similarities and differences between these two firearms. The one on top is a Ruger Blackhawk flat top. My first video was about that gun. The one on the bottom is a Cimarron Model P old model frame Colt replica. So right off bat, the similarities are they're both revolvers, they're both single action, and they were both based off of the original Colt single action Army 1873. So some of the differences are, of course, the Ruger stainless. The Cimarron has a charcoal blue finish, which is absolutely beautiful. The Ruger has a 5.5 inch barrel. The Cimarron has a 4 3/4 inch barrel. The Ruger has adjustable sights, a removable front ramp sight, and an adjustable micro rear sight. The Cimarron has fixed sights, fixed front blade, and a rear sight that is machined in onto the top strap. Probably one of the really biggest differences between the two are the way that you load and unload and carry these two revolvers. And I'll show you what I mean. So these Colt replicas and the Colts, the way that you would load and unload is you have to have the gun on half cock, open the loading gate, and I'll show you that this is unloaded for safety purposes. And then you would load, you know, obviously your chambers, close the loading gate, pull the hammer all the way back, let it down. Excuse me. The recommended procedure for carrying one of these replicas in the Colts are to load only 5. Even though this holds 6, it's a 6-shooter. A lot of people say to only load 5 if you are carrying this as a carry weapon, or you know, transporting or whatever. And the reason for that being is because the firing pin is on the hammer, and as you can see, there is no modern transfer bar into the back of this frame here. So when the hammer's down, the firing pin would be resting on the primer of a cartridge if you had this fully loaded with 6. Now, if you're at the target range and you are in a controlled environment, yeah, I'm sure you can load 6, you'd be fine. I mean, I probably would. So the way that you would traditionally load this with 5, and they call this the John Wayne load. I'll demonstrate that for you real quick. I'm using these Packmeyer snap caps, 45 Colt dummy rounds, and these things work great. So you would load the first chamber, skip 1, and then load 4 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now from here, close your loading gate, and you want to bring the hammer all the way back, all the way forward. And what that does is that allows the firing pin to rest on an empty chamber, or empty chamber. So that way there is no possibility of the gun dropping, something hitting the back of the hammer, snagging the hammer, and the possibility of a round going off. There are videos on YouTube where some of the YouTubers are demonstrating that it will actually fire, and it does. So you got to be really careful about how you're loading this when you're carrying it. This does have a couple safety features that some people will tell you how you can safely carry it, and you can, I guess, if you wanted to with 6. One of them is the hammer on the first click. This prevents the firing pin from going all the way down into the chamber. The only problem with that, as I've heard, is it doesn't take much to knock that forward and have a possibility of ruining the internals, the mechanism inside, and it would still fire off the chamber. The other way that you can now safely carry 6 is these modern replicas have a second notch on the base pin that will allow you to push that in farther, and essentially it acts much like the first click. The first click on your hammer, and it prevents that firing or that hammer from going any further than that, no matter what you do to it. The only thing I don't like about that is if you're in a, let's say a bad situation and you need this quickly, you don't have that available to you, because now you've got to try and get this firing pin back out into position where it normally would be. And that would be just time consuming and a headache. So that, to me, that's useless. If I was to ever pack this thing, I'm going to load it with 5, with the hammer resting on an empty chamber. All right, I'm going to unload this real quick. The other thing I wanted to demonstrate or tell you about this thing as well, kind of a little tip, is when you are dealing with these replicas and the Colts, every time that you cock the hammer back to load, unload, whatever, get into the habit of taking the hammer all the way back and all the way forward. I've heard that if you have it cocked and you were to drop the hammer straight forward without going all the way back, there's a possibility you could screw up your timing. You could damage the mechanism, and it puts a lot of stress on your firearm. So get in the habit, going all the way back, all the way forward. The other thing I was going to point out too, with between this one and the Ruger, this has the 4 distinct clicks like the original Colts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people refer to that as COLT, is what it stands for. Tell you a little bit about this. One-piece walnut grips, color case hardening frame. Like I said, the charcoal blue finish. It's a really delicate finish, and eventually over time it's going to fade into more of a smoky gray to give you kind of that old antique patina look, which is again something that I think is really beautiful as well. Gives it kind of that natural historic look. So again, this is just a beautiful revolver. When I mentioned about it, the old model, the base pin release screws on the bottom of the frame, just like the very first generation, then when they first came out, they didn't have the spring-loaded cross bolt base pin release like the pre-war Model Ps, or the more modern ones like my Ruger. So yeah, you've got to take this out, pull the base pin out just a little bit to get the cylinder out. Also, just like the very first Colt single actions, this has the bullseye ejector button. The pre-war Model Ps have more of a half moon ejector button on them. They also, you'll hear this referred to as the black powder frame, even though this shoots modern smokeless powder, and you can shoot black powder if you want to. They just call it that because obviously in 1873, modern smokeless cartridges weren't around then. It was all black powder. Okay, onto the Ruger. What makes this so much safer is this has just a more modern feature as far as the way you load, unload. You can carry all 6 rounds, or all 6 chambers loaded. And the reason for that, and we'll show you that this is unloaded. You'll notice that I didn't cock the hammer back to spin the cylinder, because you don't have to. It's just one of the safety features that are on these Rugers. If I'm trying to remember right, I want to say back in the 70s, from the story I heard, was that when Ruger first introduced these Blackhawks in '55, they had the old action, much like the Colts, where you had to have the hammer on half cock. You load them, unload them the same way. You were supposed to carry them with 5. From the story, from what I understand, is in the 70s, some guy had a fully loaded Ruger on his dashboard or somewhere in his vehicle, in his truck, and it was on the old action style, and the gun fell off his dash or something, struck the back of the hammer, the gun fired the round, hit him, ended up suing Ruger. Part of the lawsuit was Ruger had to install a safety feature, and they put these transfer bars into their guns from that time on. And you can see the transfer bar right here. It's blocking the firing pin. The firing pin is not on the hammer. So the way it works is when you pull the trigger, the hammer drops, strikes the transfer bar, and that in turn sends the energy into the firing pin and fires around. It acts as a barrier if you decide to carry this in a holster, or whatever. So that way the hammer does not touch the firing pin, the transfer bar blocks it. So you can safely carry all 6 chambers. And again, to load and unload, you don't have a half cock on these Rugers. On the modern actions, you simply open the loading gate, and the loading gate is part of the mechanism, and that allows you to spin the cylinder, and you can load and unload just with the loading gate. So just a more modern way to safely load, unload your firearm. Let's see. What else? Now again, like I said, these were both based off of the original Colt Single Action Army. The one thing I did not know until this year, and maybe I should be ashamed to admit that around 1888, 1890, somewhere in there, Colt actually had a flat top target model. And I believe that they produced those for about 8 years, and only about 920 somewhere in that area were actually made. And they actually had a interchangeable, removable front ramp sight and a micro adjustable rear sight. They used the single actions. They flattened out the top strap, I'm assuming to be able to get a flat adjustable micro sight on the back. But I didn't know that for the longest time, and so that makes me wonder if actually these Blackhawks were more modeled after, obviously, the Colt target model instead of the original 1873 frame, such as this one. This is actually one that I've had for probably about 2 or 3 weeks now. I haven't shot it yet. It's beautifully crafted. Some of the reviews I've read, they've actually stated that they think that some of these are better built than the actual Colts, the modern Colts. And just from handling it, looking at it, yeah, they're probably right. I will say that this was probably built better than the Ruger when I got it. The grips and everything matched up to the frame a lot better. There was no gaps on the sides here. I had some gaps in my Ruger. The one thing I do like about Cimarron, and the reason why I went with a Cimarron, was because their quality control is excellent. Actually, Uberti makes these for Cimarron, and if I remember correctly, I think Cimarron does a little bit of work to them when they get to them, their factory, and if anything is not meeting to their expectations or specifications, they reject them and they get sent back to be reworked on until they're satisfied with them. I went with the 4 3/4 inch model because I don't know. I guess I like it. It's has a great balance, and this is more of what they called, I guess, the gunfighter model. It was just easier to, I guess you could say, maneuver with. Easier to get in and out of the holster. Also, one of my favorite Western movies, 3:10 to Yuma, Russell Crowe, his character, Ben Wade, he had the Hand of God revolver, which was in the same barrel length, 4 3/4. And to me, it has a menacing look to it. It really does, gunfighter style look to it. And I had kind of a hard time deciding what barrel length to go with, because they have 7.5, 5.5, and this one 4 3/4. And really, I could have been happy with all 3 barrel lengths. I figured, well, I've already got one in 5.5 in the Ruger, and I thought, well, 7.5 might be a little too long. And so ultimately, I decided on the 4 3/4, and I'm glad I did. It has a great feel to it, great balance. Now, I haven't shot this yet. I'm hoping sometime before Christmas to get out there and shoot it. I know I need to actually make a video of me shooting these revolvers. One of the reasons probably why I haven't done it yet, is because I'm really picky about where I go shooting. There's a lot of places I can go shooting here, indoor ranges, places around the mountain. I live in Utah, so I'm not limited to where I can go. My only thing with me is I don't like shooting where it's really noisy, where you've got a lot of people around. You got to kind of wait for them to do their thing. I like to go out into kind of a rural area where it's pretty much either me and some of my family members, and we can just kind of do our thing at our own pace. And so I usually go to a couple places in southern Idaho. It's about an hour and a half drive from where I live. And it's just a nice drive. It gets me out of the Salt Lake Valley, and I just make a day trip of it. And that's why it's kind of taking me so long to get out there and make a shooting video. But I'm hoping to get one put together sometime around Christmas time when I've got some time off from work, and I'll kind of demonstrate and show you guys how these shoot. I've got some varying loads, some kind of weaker cowboy action loads up to some Underwood 255 grain key style semi-wad cutters, which have a pretty good standard pressure pop to them. I guess I should stress again, don't ever fire plus P ammo in either the replicas, Colts, or even these smaller flat top frames. And I don't ever plan on doing that. But I think for the most part, the Ruger will be my workhorse. It's going to be more of my, probably get the most range time. This one, my Cimarron, is probably going to be more of my range queen. And especially now where I still have this this beautiful finish on it. As time goes on and it starts fading into more of the gray look, I'll probably get some more use in it. I'm babying it more right now. I don't have any holsters for it. I don't want to wear it off quite yet. I'm still enjoying the blue finish. But yeah, it's it's really close to an old original first generation Colt single action Army. It's got the patent dates here on the bottom. You probably can't see them, but it says, September 19th, 1871, July 2nd, 1872, like the Colts did here. It's got 45 Colt up here on the barrel. Some serial numbers on the bottom of the frame here by the base pin. It's just it really is. I really like this gun. It's the old original Colt is something that I've wanted for a long time, but just never wanted to pay the price for one. And so the next best thing, and probably even better than the original thing, right here in my hands, for way less than half the cost of a Colt. So I couldn't be any happier with my purchase. So yeah, I hope I covered everything. If you have any questions, again, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will get back to you guys. And hopefully my next video will be of me shooting these firearms, kind of give you a demonstration of how they shoot, the recoil on them, and yeah. So anyway, happy shooting.